Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is going to be a phenomenal interview, and we are again part of the Death Doula Global Summit. Today, we have Adrian Allotey. I am going to be reading her bio, which is beautiful, in first person, because I want you to hear everything that this woman represents. And again, it's going to be her bio in first person. I am currently living my best life as a result of responding to a universal calling on my life, service to elders and their loved ones. My life's mission is to promote the final years as a sacred, beautiful, honorable stage of life. I serve this world as a non-medical end-of-life doula, an elder companion who specializes in physical, emotional, and spiritual care. Through extensive and continuous end-of-life doula training, I am able to provide support, education, and suggestions for comfort to those with a terminal diagnosis. I am equipped with the skills to prepare those who have the diagnosis and their loved ones for their last breath, hold their hand through a peaceful transition, and create a new normal for those left behind. My own self-care regimen, personal growth, and intuition allow me to mindfully hold space and provide comfort for aging people and their families in a non-judgmental, loving manner. I improve the quality of my clients' lives by being an active listener, understanding them, and advocating for their wishes. I recognize and support the notion that social interaction can be their greatest need. I am creative in finding ways to keep my clients engaged. My motto, my heart to your heart, is evident in the holistic companionship I provide. I have a toolkit of resources to bring maximum comfort, Reiki, essential oils, crystals, and more. I am often referred to as an angel, a godsend, extraordinary beyond belief, and words of the like. Adrian, thank you so much for being here.
Well, that was a mouthful. Thank you, Suzanne, for having me.
Thank you so much. It is beautiful to read every single word of that, because that is exactly what you represent. And I really want people to hear that. I could not have even written that better or said it better or come up with a better way to describe you. So thank you for being a guest on the Death Doula Global Summit. It is an honor to have you here. And the first question I always ask people is, why death? How did you get into this area of care?
Well, let me start off by saying I come from good genes. So my grandmother lived to be 106. And when I was young and got my first car, I could take my own self, drive to her house, which is about 45 minutes away. I would visit and bring things and just give her the quality of life that I thought she deserved. But then as I became, busier in life with a job, children, a husband, I visited less and less. And that always gave me a feeling of guilt. And it was hard for me to deal with that. And so I may have paid for people to go and visit her, but I wanted to be there and wasn't able to. And then I was also the last one in the family with her before she took her last breath. And so she passed away an hour later after I had left. And of course, we know now that people choose that. But at the time, I didn't even know she was even in the active dying stage. Like, there was no one there to support me, to educate the family. And I said, you know what? The medical care was there. I just feel like people deserve better. And so my hope is to be that better, just to provide that education, the support, and explain to people what's happening and what do you expect is going to happen next.
So beautiful. And you are that person, number one. And I just, I often ask this to, when I'm speaking somewhere, I start out sometimes by saying, is death a medical experience? And it confuses people because it's really powerful, right? Because we've actually made it one. We've made it one, but it's not a medical experience. It is a human experience. And that is confusing to a lot of people when I share that. So the fact that you're sharing that it is, again, that human experience is really important, right?
Absolutely. And so when you, of course, I go into all cases with absolutely no expectation,
Mm-hmm.
no end result. But when you're able to guide people and show them that it is a human experience, and
Yeah.
that of even a spiritual, and I don't mean religion, but a
Yeah.
spiritual experience, they're amazed. I mean, I get so many pats on the back, even though it's not about me. It's really about them experiencing those last moments.
Yeah, and just like what you said, that the medical was there for your grandmother, but there was so much more and you didn't know what was going on. And I know that we have these experiences as doulas, that just that education piece of sharing with the family what they're seeing as a natural part of the end of life experience, and not to be afraid, but also giving them interventions that they can use for comfort, or again, just understanding, can change the whole dynamic of how that goes. Because when you, again, reinforce that it's a natural process, the depth, it kind of lets us breathe into it. So such important work that the doulas do.
Yeah, and let me tell you something that I may do that others may not do. I
Okay.
think I'm the only one I've heard who does this, but I actually will do dress rehearsals.
Yes, I love that.
So
Yeah.
we will practice what
Mm-hmm.
do we want to see happen, and when it does begin to unfold, people are laughing, they're remembering what the person who's taking their last breath said, and we practice. The more you know,
Yeah.
and can expect, the less stress, the less fear, and so it really changes the dynamic.
That is so wonderful that you do that. And that's so important, because what drills do, or dress rehearsals do, is allow us to go there and to kind of get that shock factor, or all of that fear, to navigate it, so that when we revisit it, it has a much different energy. That's brilliant, Adrian. I love that. So your background is beautiful and diverse, but when you did embark and follow this, and I love that you followed your calling to it, you started an organization and a company called You Are Not Alone. And I thought that name is just so beautiful. Can you share with us about starting that and what you offer?
Yeah. So I actually, it took me a while to decide what I was going to call the name of the company. And what made me call it You Are Not Alone, because I kept telling people, you are not alone. So whether it's the person who has a terminal diagnosis and all the feelings that they're feeling, or whether it's the family, like there are so many, we're more alike than we are different, right?
Yes.
And I just want people to know this has happened before. The feelings that you're feeling, there are people who feel that way. You're not different. You're not odd. You're not bad.
Yeah.
So it really changes it. And so with You Are Not Alone, we focus in on the end of life, but we also do companionship,
Right.
non-medical companionship. So we come alongside the family. The sooner we get to know a person, the better we're able to prepare for that last breath. So it can
Yeah.
start off, the relationship sometimes starts off with going out to dinner, going to shows when they're no longer able to do those things. And so what I do is I start off with a survey. I want to know, who were you? Who are you now? And who would you like to be with the proper supports? And then I'm actually from the educational background. So I
Uh-huh.
created like a lot of individual plans for people. So
Uh-huh.
I say, well, what can we do with the proper support and modifications? So, I mean, we have a whole lot of fun. And sometimes I'll have adult children who will say, sorry you had to go through that. And I say, no, I am just as engaged as the person that I'm with. Like, I enjoy myself just as much as they do.
Yeah.
And so it's not a taxi service. It's not me getting you to an event. It's us being engaged together and really enjoying those moments.
I love that. And I think people are so unaware that we have an elder care crisis right now in our country and also in our world. And we have it for projections for decades to come. And one of the things that we always will identify with our elder population is, what are their needs, right? What are their, and ask them. Let's not assume that we know what people's needs are. We have to go ahead and ask. And one of the huge things, or the biggest thing, is the socialization. So that's so key. And also for me, when you say again that the earlier we're in place, the better for an end of life. When you're working with this beautiful elder population, you're building that relationship, you're having that beautiful, again, journey with them, quality of life, but then you're also available and there for when they are in that last phase.
Absolutely. And let me just say, there are times that I'm called into places and I don't know the client.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is, because I'm of the mindset that we respect who they are until that last breath, and even beyond. But absolutely, you are still living until you take the last breath. So even when I go into a place, I don't like to use the word "you are dying," even though sometimes we, for lack of vocabulary, we may use those terms. But when I go in and I don't know the person, I read the room, I read the cards. You know, I'm able to, when you read cards that people have sent while someone has maybe been ill, you know people's names, you know what their wishes are. And so even like in places when I don't know them, I still bring that moment to life until that last breath, and then beyond, based off of what the family desires.
So incredibly beautiful and powerful and needed. So, okay, so you are not alone. I love it so much what you're doing. What were your biggest challenges starting out?
So I would say the biggest challenge, and which is still my biggest challenge, is education. People do not know that there's non-medical assistance available at the end of life.
Okay.
It just works so hard to get that message out, that doulas are out there.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up, because the Death Doula Summit hopes to help create some of that awareness, because first of all, on many levels, number one, global, bringing us together, that death unites us and it touches all of us, no matter where we are, what we look like, what religion or culture, how much money you have. That is the equalizer, right? And I think we forgot that. But also what COVID did, in my opinion, is, and I know I've been working at this for a very long time, there's such fear of death and death phobia, and not, you know, just pushing it away like it's optional. And we know that's not the case, right? And we also know that when you can have the right kind of support, kindness, and also you should be empowered to make your own choices for things ahead of time, that it can go really well, that it can be a beautiful experience. So the education, I hope this summit helps to alleviate some of that, obviously. And, you know, you being in it and having the awareness with COVID, I think that we're going to have a lot of people coming together in understanding that death is our greatest teacher about life again. So hopefully there'll be some shifting coming about with that, with the education piece, I hope.
Yeah. Well, I think COVID has slowed us down, and we have, we realize more of the importance of being in alignment with our true selves.
Yeah.
So we're now getting opportunities to choose how we want to spend our time. And again, prior to COVID, I believe that as we grew older, we grow further and further apart from who we are, because we have so many demands placed on us. Well, now those demands are not there. And so people are looking in the mirror and saying, this is who I am. And so my hope is that continues.
Me too.
Yeah.
You know, somebody did a study, and I don't have the actual resource from it, but they said that 2/3 of people said that the lockdown and the having to sit still and be quiet made them a better person. And I believe that. I think that this is an opportunity to get still, and you can't outrun yourself, right? So you really have to take a look at how you've been living and what your thought processes are. And, you know, death brings us into the awareness that we're all in this together. And like yesterday, I was thinking that together is our only resource, in one sense, by the way, just because everything's kind of being stripped away. So it's taking away jobs and it's changing policies. Like, just on all levels, things are becoming aware. And that's a really great thing, because we have so much work that we need to do to build the world that is united and that is just and that is connected for every single person. And so when you get quiet and you look at that, you know, you really have to pay attention. But if we have no money and if we have no this, we have each other.
Absolutely.
And presence and kindness and compassion are things that don't have a price tag on them, that are available to each one of us, and I think are our most powerful gifts for one another.
Well,
So
it definitely levels the playing field. And isn't that what normally happens after every big catastrophe? Those things that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
That you find time for people that you didn't have time for. You're helping those who need help.
Yeah.
You're giving money that you maybe can't even afford to separate, but you want to be able to bring quality of life to someone that's in need.
Adrian, I agree 1,000%. And the other thing is, I think that we really see people sometimes for the first time when we're in crisis.
Yeah.
That we have, I live in New York City, and every time, especially when things were going up in the pandemic, and believe me, we're still all going through it, and we're still going to have a bit of up and down and all that. But when it was, in that numbers going up in crisis, I would look at everyone's face, and it was heartbreaking because there's so much fear. And I just wanted to let people know that I see you. We're here together. And, we'll get through this together because we'll be together, however you could do it. But I agree with you that you can see people that you can lend a hand to, that you can say something to, that makes a huge difference for them.
Now, I don't live in a city. Mm-hmm. So when I would go out, especially during the highest point, I would be so excited to run into someone, and mm-hmm. to do exactly that, to be seen, to be acknowledged, to mm-hmm. feel the love.
Yes. Yes. I know it's there, and there have been magical moments, and I talk all the time about how on the news, and we're just hearing about all the negative, right? And there are so many moments of love and kindness and all of that really just lift you up, and we're really not hearing that. So I think that we have to be conscious of putting more of that share out on our social pages and just coming together. And also, this is our opportunity, in my opinion, I think lots of us can understand this, to create the new. So when things fall apart, when everything breaks apart, it's the best opportunity to say, how do we want to rebuild this? In what way? And what are the key elements and variables to that? And there's so many, right? Yeah. Taking care of one another, uniting equality, no judgment, and our planet and our animals. Like, you can go. So it's a beautiful space. And again, so if the biggest challenge was education, I think that we're being given a great platform with this moment to be able to have these conversations and to talk. So I think that's fantastic. Can you share some of your experiences with your clients? And I know in your bio, they talk about these beautiful words to describe what you've meant to them in that journey. And I think it's really important for people to hear the difference that this role makes, that this support can make. And again, for us to just highlight that it's a non-medical professional who gives spiritual, emotional, and physical support to someone else and their families. And the fact that end of aging and end of life is not a medical experience, it's a human one. Yes, we have medical, and that's wonderful for what we need, but it's really a holistic human experience. And bringing about now non-medical professionals to fill in the huge gaps in the mainstream medical system to provide this is the answer, and the best answer to this crisis. So if you could share some examples.
Sure. So we could probably talk about this for days and days. But I will share you that what I call my winning formula is tapping into the moment. So when you're so into the moment, you know what a person needs and how they need it. So there have been times where I know in one case, I was actually, a woman was in her active dying phase. I was actually in the bed with her on one side. The daughter was on the other side. And she was literally like in an igloo of love just surrounding her, the light that we were bringing to her presence. Mm-hmm. And so each one really is different. So it's, like you mentioned in the using oils, the power of touch, mm-hmm. bringing people, especially during COVID, to be, even though they cannot maybe be there in person, but getting them actively involved in the dying phase, because you don't want them to say, oh, Sally did it all. No, there's something that John can do from California as well.
Right.
And so I involve them as well, but it's really, maybe listening to music. There's so many stories that I could tell, but I would think that probably the most unique one was when the three of us were in the bed together, she took her last breath. And it just brought us so much comfort. But because the moment spoke to me and she needed that. Now, the daughter would have never thought to get in the bed and snuggle, nor would she have expected for me to do that as well. But mm-hmm. in that moment, I know that's what she needed. And this particular lady was able to take her last breath. We were not in a hospital bed. We were on a couch with an extra mattress, looking outside of her, open, doors. It was just the most beautiful experience. And so again, each one is different. We could be singing songs, just acknowledging who that person is, maybe talking about the person. But again, you brought up a really good point. What does the person want? And so again, the sooner we're able to have those conversations and communicate that to the family, we kind of know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing, Adrian, that you just really pointed out and highlighted is your intuition, your knowing. Being, and for me, it's one of your best diagnostic tools in your life, and especially at the end of life, because there are so many times that your patient will be in that sleep state or actively dying state. What are you getting intuitively? What are you getting instinctually that is supposed to support? And that is what you followed with this is what she needed. And I love that, because people don't give that the credit and the value that it deserves, because maybe it doesn't make mental sense, or, analytical, or what if you feel it, then that is the truth. And that is what somebody needs.
Yeah. And that brings to mind, there was another woman that the energy in the room. Now, this particular lady, I told the family, go rest. I'll sit vigil while you rest, and then we'll be able to have more energy in the morning to be able to handle what's going to happen. The energy in this particular room, and I have never experienced this, but again, I honored it, was that of dancing. Throughout the night, I danced around her bed. And not like a slow dance, Suzanne, like a fast beat dance. Like, it was amazing. And even though she was laying there, we were in rhythm together. And so when I shared that in the morning, and then I shared some of the songs that I played, they were shocked, because they was their mother's favorite songs. Now, I didn't know that.
Right.
But the energy was that of almost like a party. And I had never experienced that. So that was pretty amazing.
Okay. I'm getting kind of chills here. So there have been so many people that will share with me that before they leave, right? So I've been with, just a lot of people. So there's a lot that I can reference, but patients will, in my opinion, go back and forth a lot of time before they leave for good. And they'll talk about a party. They'll talk about people waiting for them in this party atmosphere. So it makes perfect sense that you were getting that energy, and that it's so beautiful that you created that space right here, for the continuity and all. That's really beautiful, beautiful.
And after the party, she relaxed. And I believe in this particular case that someone did come and receive her and help her transition. There was evidence to that. But it is a lot about the energy and just knowing what this person needs and just honoring it.
So Adrian, again, I have to highlight and really say how beautiful it is that, because a huge part of being a doula, and I talk about this all the time, is that yes, it is beautiful what you can learn, but it is, again, something that's holistic and something that is fluid. So not one end of life will be exactly the same as another. So it's not like you can just textbook everything, right? So what are you getting? What is needed in that moment? And you just absolutely said everything that is the value of the beautiful work, listening, being present in the moment, and acting upon that. It's so great. It's so great.
If I can just add, just opening your heart space.
Yeah.
Like that love will, and sometimes, Suzanne, there'll be times where I will be in a room with someone because the family won't show up because they think that person wasn't nice. And then I say to myself, but here the universe is giving them the purest love. I'm not, I don't have those layers of past experiences. So they're still being honored. They're still being loved on with the purest, no strings attached love. And so I just think that's wonderful too.
It is. And here's the thing. How do we get experience? By doing, right? So I often talk about how when I was a young hospice nurse, I had absolutely no experience with end of life, not one, not a family member, nothing. But I was called to that space. And was it scary? Yeah, for me, it was like I was being sent to people's homes. I didn't know the first thing about end of life, but I trusted. And I said, as long as my heart is open and that I have the highest intention, and I know I can make a phone call if there's something I need to know and I'll learn it. I have to trust in that. And that is the most beautiful thing that we can point out to people, that if you open your heart and you go to fulfill that where you're at, there really can be no wrong in that. In fact, that's the goal.
And
right?
I said, that's just good living. Like,
that's just good living.
the same thing that I do there at the deathbed is the same thing I'm doing now in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It does help that you said, like, we have the education of know what to expect, and we have the vocabulary, and we also have doulas are a very close-knit community.
Yeah.
So we've had that support as well. But
Yeah.
it's just a good way of showing up in the world. And so there was a point where I said to myself, are you going to risk it all to gain your true self? And as soon as I answered that question, that's when the doula work showed up. And so I did start off as a when I still do, I'm a hospice volunteer at 2 local hospice. For people that don't know to call me, I can show up and help them as well.
That's so incredible. So let's stay on that theme a little bit, because I think this is really important, and this is really important at this very moment, is that showing up with our hearts open in this space. And for me, when I started working in end of life, it taught me everything about life. I never felt more alive than working in that space. And people say, how can that possibly be? Because it taught me, again, about really being in intention, no agenda, no judgment, being present. What are you getting? And opening your heart fully. So Adrian, can I ask you, how can death bring us together? You know, the just awareness of it. And again, I talk about the fact that in our world, we've really removed death from being a part of our natural life cycle in conversation and even awareness. And it has, in my opinion, led to, again, a lot more suffering, but also the other things that death can teach us. So if we become more fully rounded with death awareness, how do you think that that can bring us together a bit?
I think it equalizes it. It's almost like you have the red blood running through your veins.
Yes.
And so do I.
Yes.
You're going to take your last breath, and so am I.
Yes.
You, Suzanne, have a limited amount of time on this earth, and so do I.
Yes.
You're going to make the best of your time, and so am I.
Yes.
That's a great equalizer.
And when we step into that awareness, like, everything else seems so irrelevant, right? And it's such a beautiful reminder, because at the end of the day, I mean, just when you see all of, just a lot of things that are going on, I think people forget that basically everyone wants the same things, right? It's just they're going about it way differently and in separation. And where the magic happens is the synergy of coming together in this. That's where everything transforms.
Yes, absolutely.
So at this very moment, raising up our humanity and letting death be our greatest teacher about life, I feel like is something that we would be in a great place bringing back. Let death be our teacher about life. And it's everything, Adrian, you just said. I can't even add.
I thank you for the work as well, because once I went from starting the hospice work, I found you, and I don't think that was by accident. Our orders are steps, but we're also responsible for our steps.
Right.
It was an ordained meeting. So I appreciate what you represent, in not only my education and training as being a doula, but also my life. When I see you showing up doing your work, it allows me and gives me permission to show up and do my work.
Well, may I say thank you, and right back to you. It has been an incredible gift getting to know you and to seeing what you're doing as a ripple effect out in the world. I could not be more grateful. So Adrian, I know everyone wants to know how they can find you, get in touch with you, and hear more about your business. If you could share that.
Sure. So it is You Are Not Alone Elder Care. I am, my website is YANAEC, which is the acronym for You Are Not Alone Elder Care. And those are my handles: Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, and I'm out there. So You Are Not Alone Elder Care, YANAEC.
Perfect. And we'll have all that on your speaker page. So go to your speaker page and you can find all those links. So again, Adrian, Allotey, I want to thank you so much for being part of the Death Doula Global Summit and just being the most incredible person out in the world, because we just need as much light as possible, and you are an example of that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you.
All right. And thank you, everyone. This again was the Death Doula Global Summit. We will see you in the next interview. Bye, everybody.